Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 29, Kṛṣṇa and the gopis meet. Text number, well, I'm going to read several texts. Let's see, where are we starting with? Starting with text 40. The first few verses I'll chant myself and read the English, and then the last verse we'll all chant together. Kastray. Oh, is that what this is? Okay. Kastrayanga te kala-padāyata-veṇu-gīta sammohitārya-caritān calet tri-lokyām trailokya-saubhagam idaṁ cha nirīkṣya rūpaṁ yad go-dvija-druma-mṛgāḥ pulakāny abibhran. Dear Kṛṣṇa, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deer manifest the ecstatic symptom of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. Text 41. Vyaktam bhavan braja bhayatri haro bijato devayatadi purusha sura loka gopta tanani dehi kara pankajam arta bando tapto staneshu cha shirasu cha kinkarinam. Clearly, you have taken birth in this world to relieve the fear and distress of the people of Braj, just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the primeval Lord, protects the domain of the demigods. Therefore, O friend of the distressed, kindly place your lotus hand on your maidservants' heads and burning breasts. Text 42. Shri Sukha uvacha iti viklavitam tosham Shrutva Yogeshwareshwara Prahasya Sadayam Gopir Atmarom Ramo Piyari Ratmat. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, smiling upon hearing these despondent words from the gopis, Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Master of all masters of mystic yoga, mercifully enjoyed with them, although he is self-satisfied. And now we're going to chant this next verse together. Tabi sammohitā udara-chestita priyekṣanot pula makibir achyutaha udaraha sadrija kunda didatir vyarocatainanka ivo dubir vritaha tabi sammohitā udara-chestita priyekṣanot pula mukibir achyutaha udaraha sadrija kunda didatir virocatainanka ivo dubir vritaha tabi sammohitā udara-chestita priyekṣanot pula mukibir achyutaha udaraha sadrija kunda didatir virocatainanka ivo dubir vritaha
tabi sammohitā udara-chestita
tabi sammohitā udara-chestita
priyekṣanot pula mukibir achyutaha
priyekṣanot pula mukibir achyutaha
udaraha sadrija kunda didatir
udaraha sadrija kunda didatir
vyarocatainanka ivo dubir vritaha
virocatainanka ivo dubir vritaha tabi sammohitā udara-chestita priyekṣanot pula mukibir achyutaha Udara sadvija kunda didatir. Virocha tainanka yodu birutaha. Tabir sameta birudara chestita. Priyekṣanot pulakāny-virachata. Varasa dijakundavati. Virocha tainanka yodu-birutaha. Tabir sameta birudara chestita. Priyekṣanot pulakāny-virachata. Udaraha sadvija-kunda-didatir. Virocha tainanka yodu-birutaha. Ladies. Tabir sameta birudara chestita. Priyekṣanot pulakāny-virachata. Udara sadvija-kunda-didatir. Virocha tainanka yodu-birutaha. Tabi, with them, sametabi, who were all joined together. Udara, magnanimous. Chestita, he whose activities. Priya, affectionate. Ikṣana, by his glances. Utpula, blossoming. Mukibi, whose faces. Achyutaha, the infallible Lord. Udara, with broad. Hasa, smiles. Trija, of his teeth. Kunda, like jasmine flowers. Didati, showing the effulgence. Vyarochata, he appeared splendid. Aṅga, the moon who bears marks resembling a black deer. Iva, like. Udubi, by stars. Ritaha, surrounded. Translation. Among the assembled gopis, the infallible Lord Kṛṣṇa appeared just like the moon surrounded by stars. He whose activities are so magnanimous made their faces blossom. With his affectionate glances and his broad smiles revealed the effulgence of his jasmine bud-like teeth. Purport. The word achyuta here indicates that Lord Kṛṣṇa did not fail to give pleasure to each and every gopi in the nocturnal assembly. So we have 4 verses and 1 sentence of a purport.
There is another one, 44 also.
Oh, 44? Yeah. Oh, I thought that was the last one because there was a purport.
No, I sent you till 40.
Yeah, I don't get that. My daughter got it. I don't have a phone. Oh, I'm sorry. So I chanted the wrong verse. Do the next one. Okay, so we're going to chant? No, I'll just chant it. Okay, I'm sorry I messed up.
You're from America.
Yeah. And Prabhupada talks about fool number one. I don't know what number I am, but I know I'm in that list somewhere. Okay. Upagiyamana udgayan, upagiyamana ugayan, vanita sata yutopaha, malam bibrad vaijayantim vyacharan madayan vanam. Okay, so as the gopis sang his praises, that leader of hundreds of women sang loudly in reply. He moved among them, wearing his Vaijayanti garland, beautifying the Vrindavan forest. Purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, Lord Kṛṣṇa sang many wonderful melodies and meters, and the gopis accompanied him, following his lead. Krishna's singing on this occasion is described in the Sri Vishnu Purana. Kṛṣṇa sarach chandramasam kaumudim kumudakaram jago gopi janas trailokya Kṛṣṇa nama puna puna. Kṛṣṇa sang the glories of the autumn moon, the moonshine, and the lotus-filled river, while the gopis simply sang his name repeatedly. So that Kṛṣṇa was singing things, and the gopis are just singing his name. Okay, so I'm going to start. I read a few things previously about these verses from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and some things from Jiva Goswami, and I'm going by my very imperfect memory and see if I can remember anything that I actually read. But we'll start with this text 40 again. Dear Kṛṣṇa, what woman in all the three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior when bewildered by the sweet, drawn-out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deers manifest the ecstatic symptoms of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. So here the gopis are saying it's like anyone. It's not just us, like we're falling, we're deviating because they're not following the religious principles. I mean, even in the Bhagavad Gita, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I'll protect you, do not fear. So they're saying if any woman, anywhere, whoever heard your flute, would just give up everything else. It doesn't matter, their husbands, their children, whatever, and just go to you. So it's not just us. It's you who are actually, destroying Dharma by you playing your flute. There's nothing else we can do about it, and so you're the one that's the cause of this, not us. So don't blame us for doing this. So this is one of the things stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And your beauty, it's not even just us that are attracted, even the animals, ecstatic symptoms, their hair stand on end when they see a beautiful form. So it's not just us women. So it's natural. Kṛṣṇa is all attractive. He's the most beautiful. He has all six opulences in full, and these are the things that are attracted in this material world and anywhere. These are the things that are attractive. And Kṛṣṇa's beauty is we can't even experience. I remember just Srila Prabhupada's beauty. Before I actually saw Prabhupada, I went to the airport. I was going to see Srila Prabhupada, and I was very, very conscious of not seeing him as something so wonderful because that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to be very objective, and I was very, very objective. I just wanted to see him as he is, so I'm not influenced. And when I saw Srila Prabhupada for the very first time, the thought that came to my mind was, he's the most beautiful anything I've ever seen. And I offered my obeisances, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful, how attractive he was. I've seen pictures of him. I didn't see the same thing in the pictures as I did when I actually saw him. And I was very, very objective not to see him as, so I wanted to see what I would see him if I looked at him just objectively. And that's what I saw. And Prabhupada, he's a servant of Kṛṣṇa. He's not Kṛṣṇa. So I can't imagine, we really can't imagine how beautiful Kṛṣṇa is. The most beautiful thing you can see in this world is just a spark of his splendor. Kṛṣṇa is, full of everything. And when we see something that's very attractive, instead of trying to look at it as it's not attractive, we can see that's just a spark of Kṛṣṇa's splendor. Can imagine how beautiful Kṛṣṇa looks like. So we can't conceive of it until we actually see him. And these gopis and these animals have seen him, and they experience ecstatic symptoms. And when we're just Prabhupada, when we see Prabhupada, we're just looking at him. We're not looking at anything else. We don't look at this person, that person, nor do we think about the past or the future. Well, I got to do this, I got to do that. There's no other thoughts. Just Prabhupada, just being with Prabhupada. So we can't. That's like a little glimpse of what it would be like, being with Kṛṣṇa. So it's very hard. It's impossible to not succumb to that and give up everything else. And this is what the gopis are doing. The gopis, to speak about the gopis is very, very high, elevated conversation or thoughts, but we understand from Prabhupada's teachings that the gopis are the greatest devotees. They're the most attached to Kṛṣṇa. So what are we? We can't compare to them, and we're not trying to compare to them. But we can understand just from understanding Srila Prabhupada, or someone may have that experience with their present guru, and it's the most wonderful thing. I remember once I was with Prabhupada in Chicago with the Radha Damodar. I was on the Radha Damodar party, and the Radha Damodar leaders all got to meet. I was a van leader, got to meet with Srila Prabhupada in his room. And I remember crossing my legs, sitting on the floor, and my knee was giving me a lot of pain. And I was thinking that now I was kind of near the back of the room. I don't know how many leaders there were, maybe 20 of us, if that many. And I remember the pain in my knee, and I was thinking, I'm going to ruin everything for everybody. This is just the way I was thinking. I'm sure it wasn't really happening, because I'm bringing out these bad, vibrations from this pain. And then it was like Prabhupada's mercy just came over my entire body, and I felt no pain at all. And I was almost going to cry because of Prabhupada's mercy, but then I thought that would disturb everything, so I didn't do that. But just by being with Prabhupada, you don't have, there's nothing else. And when I think of that, and I think of Kṛṣṇa, and I also think of in Vaikuntha, it's like, I want to go to Kṛṣṇa Loka because it's so much fun, it's just exciting, it's wonderful because you don't even see him as God, you just have a relation, you love him like anything, but you have a different relationship with him. And I was thinking, what about Vaikuntha Loka? I can't see, this is my mundane vision, I can't see why you'd want to go there. But then I thought about how when I saw Prabhupada, how amazing I felt just seeing Prabhupada. So on Vaikuntha Loka, just seeing Vishnu even, would be the most amazing thing. You're just completely satisfied. You don't need anything. So I was just thinking about that one time. And of course I still want to go to Krishna Loka if I can, but at the same time, on Vaikuntha Loka, you're just seeing Narayan, and you're totally immersed in ecstasy. And I had that experience seeing Srila Prabhupada, so I know it's even much greater to see because Prabhupada, he is a complete pure representative of Krishna, and but he's just a little tiny, still spirit soul, a spark. But it's the most beautiful thing we can ever see. But to see the whole, I can't possibly imagine what that would be like. So I'm going to go on to the next verse. Clearly you have taken birth in this world to relieve the fear and distress of the people of Braj, just as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the primeval Lord, protects the domain of the demigods. Therefore, O friend of the distressed, kindly place your lotus hand on your maidservants' heads and burning breasts. So here, they're comparing Krishna to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're not saying he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're not actually seeing him like that. But they're comparing him because just like he's taking care of the devotees in Braj so wonderfully, giving them all protection from all these demons, even from the demigod Indra, showering thunder storms, this rain, heavy rain, as thick as pillars, and flooding everything, and Krishna just protected him, lifting Govardhan Hill. I mean, even just the lifting of Govardhan Hill, it was even just. I mean, not that it's just, but there's so many pastimes in that, just that lifting of the hill, and how everyone is thinking, and then he gave them protection. So they're feeling that you similarly give all protection to the devotees of Braj, and you take care of them. Now we're suffering so much. You have to relieve our suffering by touching our heads and touching our breasts. Our breasts are burning, and either Jiva Goswami or Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that number one, they wanted him to touch their breasts so that he would be pleased. Not even so much that they wanted to be satisfied, but they knew this would be pleasing to him. And how they wanted him to touch them because they were suffering, and that would relieve their suffering. So they're trying to direct Krishna in these ways to satisfy his devotees, just like he's done before. He gave them protection, he gave them shelter, so you should also do this now with us. So and then Sukadev Goswami said, smiling upon hearing these despondent words from the gopis, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of all masters of mystic yoga, mercifully enjoyed with them, although he is self-satisfied. So this is a nice point that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, that Krishna is self-satisfied. He doesn't need anything. He's happy. It's not that he's not happy and content, but he's very happy and satisfied. But yet, when he's with the gopis, he's even more satisfied. And we can learn something from this even ourselves. When we're engaged in serving Krishna and doing something and thinking of Krishna, because he says, in all your activities and for the results, just depend upon me, work always under my protection, and in such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So it's not always so easy to be fully conscious of Krishna while we're engaging in devotional service. But when we're doing that, when we're making that effort, we're doing the service and we're trying to think of Krishna, then Krishna becomes even more satisfied. First of all, we become more satisfied because we're satisfying Krishna. And he actually can become more satisfied even by our own devotional service. It's not like only the gopis can satisfy Krishna. Every one of us can he's fully satisfied, but we can satisfy him even more. He becomes even more pleased. So we should work hard. Prabhupada said, let our motto be, work hard for God. That should be our motto. So we should work hard for God. And he also said, work now, samadhi later. I mean, later is there for a lot of us. But especially when you're younger, you work hard. You do whatever you can. You know, when Prabhupada was here, people slept very little because there was just no time. It was a full day. And then we'd go out to do Harinam, then book distribution, and it was just a full day for everyone. And Prabhupada had us we had a lot of classes in the beginning also. I mean, I moved in the temple in 1971, but even at that time, we had a Bhagavad Gita in the evening, Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, we had the Kṛṣṇa book, we had Ishopanishad. Every day we had at least all those classes, and on Sunday we had teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So we had a lot of classes, because he also says now is the time to, what is it? To thicken, what? Boil the milk, yes, thank you. You know, so we have to get fixed up ourselves. And then when we're fixed up, which a lot of devotees are, we can go out and spread Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Purity is the force. So if we're, you know, he said these four things. Preaching is the essence. Purity is the force. Utility is the principle, and books are the basis. Thank you. So we have to ourselves become pure, and we get that way by hearing and chanting and serving. Prabhupada didn't. He really worked the devotees. He didn't know how much time he had, or maybe he did, but he knew he didn't have a lot of time left, and he had to try to establish this movement, you know, get the foundation of this movement. And of course, since Srila Prabhupada left, this movement has increased many-fold. So we're on the right track. He also said, this is just before he was leaving his body, that you'll show your love for me by cooperating. So if we cooperate, it's not like I got to do things my way or not at all. We have to cooperate. So by doing this, cooperating with each other for serving Kṛṣṇa. The gopis are cooperating with each other for trying to please Kṛṣṇa. Their goal is to please Kṛṣṇa. He also said that competition is even in the spiritual world, but there's no envy. So we don't become envy. If somebody does better than us, we should be pleased. There's pleasing Kṛṣṇa more. Our goal should be to please Kṛṣṇa. If someone's pleasing Kṛṣṇa, we should be happy. Just like if you have a child and someone is pleasing your child, you're happy. You're not like competing. Why is he, you know, he's making them happier than I am. You're happy that somebody is pleasing your son or your daughter. You know, so similarly, if we love Kṛṣṇa, like generally parents love their children, and if somebody makes them happy, you're happy. Even Prabhupada said that, and I was at Vyas Puja in New Vrindavan, I think it was in 74, where there was a lot of people, there was press, there was a lot of people. It was a huge, huge festival. Thousands of devotees came from all over the country to New Vrindavan. And when he was giving a talk, because we were worshiping him, and other people may be thinking something, and he said, what can you do to please God? You know, and then he said, what can you do to please a rich man? He has everything. What can you do to please him? But if you pat his son nicely on the head, or you pet his dog nicely, he's pleased. He says, similarly, I am like Krishna's dog. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. Of course, we don't think of him this way, but he was saying this himself. So basically, if we just please Prabhupada, Krishna's pleased. What can we do to please Kṛṣṇa ourselves? We're a little insignificant, but we can by pleasing Prabhupada. And all you have to do to please Prabhupada is to be Kṛṣṇa conscious, to try to serve and push on Kṛṣṇa consciousness. That's all you have to do. And then Prabhupada is pleased, and then Kṛṣṇa is pleased. There's the whole disciplic succession is pleased. Even when Prabhupada was here, how was it he was able to do so much? Because he loved his spiritual master who gave him these instructions, and he loved Kṛṣṇa. And he tried in every way to please Kṛṣṇa. He gave his whole life for pleasing Kṛṣṇa. And he didn't want anything, any material thing. He only wanted to please Kṛṣṇa by spreading Kṛṣṇa consciousness to the English-speaking people. That's what he was trying to do. So then Kṛṣṇa wants to give him something because he's giving everything to Kṛṣṇa. So therefore Kṛṣṇa reciprocates by helping to spread this Kṛṣṇa consciousness movement. Mukunda Maharaj, before he was a Maharaj, he was in New York, and he told Srila Prabhupada he's going to India, he's going to California, and then from there going to India. They're going to India. Him and his wife are going to India. And Prabhupada says, while in California, see if you can open up one center. And Mukunda Maharaj said yes, but he left thinking, what is he talking about? I'm going to India. He's asking me to open up one center. But then he meets, who later became Shama Sundar and Malati. And Shama Sundar was like they talked to him about the Swami. And Shama Sundar said, well, let's try to do something. And then they canceled his trip to India by this one little sentence. And Mukunda didn't even accept it. But then he told it to Shama Sundar, and then Mukunda got into it, and then they wound up opening a center in California, in San Francisco. And thousands of people, they had a big mantra rock festival, and thousands of people came, and they had all these bands, and Prabhupada came, and thousands of people were chanting Hare Krishna, Westerners. So, and Prabhupada even said, I don't have any qualification, but one thing I have is I have full faith in the holy name. This is what he wrote when he first arrived in Boston. He has full faith in the holy name, and you can make me a success or failure as you like. I'm your puppet, whatever you like. Make me dance, oh Lord, make me dance. So Prabhupada was just only trying to please Kṛṣṇa, and Kṛṣṇa was somehow out of these very unqualified people in America at the time, he found some that had some sincerity, and somehow Kṛṣṇa made certain people think a certain way and get attracted to Kṛṣṇa consciousness and get attracted to Prabhupada. It was mostly Prabhupada that everyone was attracted to, and that's what really started this movement. So the Supreme Master. Oh yeah. Anyway, so this was the reciprocation between Srila Prabhupada and Kṛṣṇa, and because Prabhupada satisfied Kṛṣṇa, even though he's fully satisfied, and Kṛṣṇa wanted to satisfy Prabhupada, and there was no amount of material things that would satisfy Prabhupada, only the spreading of Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and Kṛṣṇa made all those arrangements. I mean, if you look at the history, Prabhupada started with nothing, and he made some friends, and they helped him open up a center, and then after that, he sent he made them into devotees in a very short time, and then they went all over the world and opened up centers and spread Kṛṣṇa consciousness, and it was Kṛṣṇa doing this through the devotees, because the devotees wanted to please Prabhupada, and Kṛṣṇa wanted to please Prabhupada, so he let it all happen. So, how much time? Okay. Among the assembled gopis, the infallible Lord Kṛṣṇa appeared just like the moon surrounded by stars. He whose activities are so magnanimous made their faces blossom with his affectionate glances, and his broad smiles revealed the effulgence of his jasmine bud-like teeth. So among the assembled gopis, the infallible Lord appeared just like the moon surrounded by stars. So Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur explained how the moon is so beautiful, but it becomes even more beautiful surrounded by stars. So similarly, Kṛṣṇa is the most beautiful, but when he's surrounded by the gopis, he becomes even more beautiful. You know, we talk about sometimes it's ever-increasing transcendental bliss. So this is ever-increasing transcendental beauty. And there's no limit. In the material world, we're used to everything having a limit. You know, everything has a limit. You know, everything has a time period. Like I can become so happy, and then that's it materially. And then usually I get happy, I get distressed back. You know, there's a little roller coaster. But in the spiritual world, you don't. Sometimes people say you have to be distressed in order to really know what happiness is. But that is definitely not a fact. You can know what happiness is by just being happy and being even more happy and more happy, more ecstatic, more blissful, and it goes on eternally. And because you have a spiritual body, you can tolerate it, all this happiness. And in the purport, the word achyuta here indicates that Lord Kṛṣṇa did not fail to give pleasure to each and every gopi in the nocturnal assembly. So achyuta is infallible, but here this infallible is dealing with how he was able to satisfy every single gopi. He didn't miss anybody. Every one of them were completely satisfied and ecstatic. And even all this talking between them, and Kṛṣṇa saying different things that he was thinking and saying against them, and the gopis were coming back with different responses to Kṛṣṇa. And actually, Kṛṣṇa, they defeated Kṛṣṇa many times in what Kṛṣṇa said. They came back. I mean, they're supposed to be simple village girls, but they were not. So they were very intelligent village girls, and they were. When I was just reading some of these things, they were able to defeat Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa would say one thing, and they'd come up with some other thing. Just like with the breast, Kṛṣṇa said, at least with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comments, that your breasts are so hot, you know, they're burning. They will burn my hands. And they said, just like the sun is so hot, but the lotus that the sun is on becomes ecstatic with the sun. It doesn't burn the lotus. So similarly, it's not going to burn your hands. It'll just make you even more happy, just like the lotus is. So they come back with different answers, and it's just amazing how that Kṛṣṇa gets defeated, but then he keeps on arguing. You know, sometimes you're discussing with someone who's not a devotee, you know, about this philosophy, and you defeat them, but then they come up with some other thing, and that's what Kṛṣṇa seems to keep doing with the gopis. But finally, he gives in and he satisfies them with his glances, his touches, and he satisfied every single one of the gopis completely in this. So, as the gopis sang his praises, that leader of hundreds of women sang loudly in reply. He moved among them, wearing his Vaijayanti garland, beautifying the Vrindavan forest. So, this here now they're quoting. I was wondering also about this, but I guess I could talk later. But just my understanding was, this is what I understood, but it may not be correct, that when Prabhupada, when Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur didn't say anything, you know, about that particular verse, then Prabhupada didn't comment on that verse. Anybody know if that's true? Because here there was several verses where Vishwanath Chakravarti did comment on them, and there's no purports to them. Did anybody know? No? Okay. Because that's what I was told. Okay. They sang many wonderful melodies and meters, and the gopis accompanied him, following his lead. Krishna's singing on this occasion is described in the Sri Vishnu Purana. Krishna sang the glories of the autumn moon, the moonshine, and the lotus-filled river, while the gopis simply sang his name repeatedly. So that's what we should be doing, chanting his name repeatedly. And Srila Prabhupada gave us, minimum 16 rounds a day. I also thought about that. And Prabhupada was very, very smart. He was even like a businessman. And he told the devotees chant 64 rounds a day. I suspect he knew that they won't be able to chant 64 rounds a day. So then he said 32, at least 32. And then they couldn't do that. Then he said minimum 16. I kind of think he probably had in his mind to get them to chant 16. And he started with 64 just to get us to chant 16. But I don't know, that's just my speculation. Because if he started with 16, they might have said, no, that's too much. And then, so he started with 64. But in any case, all we have to do is chant 16 rounds a day, follow the rules and regulations, and we'll go do some devotional service. And we go back home, back to Godhead, and we can see Krishna personally and really get an idea of how beautiful he is and how attractive his flute playing is. I mean, even his flute playing, it says that it penetrated all the Earth's atmosphere throughout the whole universe. It penetrated the covering of the universe. And then, was it Sheshanaga he's got all the universes on different hoods. And then Sheshanaga heard this and he started swaying this way and that way with the playing of Krishna's flute. So many amazing things can happen when you hear Krishna's flute. And the Gayatri mantra supposedly is Krishna's flute. You can hear Krishna's flute. I haven't heard it yet, but maybe you can. So I don't have much time, but anyone have a question or a comment? I hope. Yes.
Krishna is very kind to his devotees, and any parent who sees a son or daughter suffering, then they're overwhelmed with compassion. So we see so much suffering and pain in this world. Wouldn't Krishna be okay if he interfered a little bit and just gave a little taste, a little nectar, and once you get that nectar, you forget about all the nonsense. But other than that, I'm just bewildered and struggling. But Krishna's so kind and compassionate. Why he should throw something?
Well, I had some thoughts like that, particularly about this Russia, this invading Ukraine, and so many people suffering. And I have my idea, if I was God, what I would do. And it's not what Krishna's doing. But I only see a little tiny picture. He sees the whole thing. We see a tiny little bit, and we can make decisions based on that. But when you see the whole picture, this is very insignificant. This whole life is very insignificant. So sometimes people have to go through some suffering before they can come to Krishna consciousness. Or if they surrender to Krishna, Krishna can relieve that suffering. But I think the point is, with our little tiny brains, we figured out what should be done, and Krishna's not doing that because he sees a lot more than we see. That's my understanding. And I mean, it's terrible, and we should try to help people. As devotees, we should try to help them. When Prabhupada saw, was it in Vrindavan? When he saw, or Mayapur, I'm not sure, but he saw the people, the kids going through the trash for food. And he started this, within so many miles of the temple, we should feed everybody who's hungry. And he started that when he saw that. So we should do similar things. We should not, because someone who is starving, you can't really preach to them about Krishna consciousness. First, give them some prasadam. But that's another thing. We give them prasadam. I was in Calcutta last time I was here in India, and we walked at night, myself and my wife, we walked at night just around the temple, and these people are laying and sleeping on the streets. and a rat went by, and my wife got scared, and I didn't get scared because I didn't see the rat, but otherwise I would too. But the people who were sleeping there started laughing like she was afraid of a rat, you know. They're so poor, they have no place. So I was thinking, I want to help these people. What can I do to help them? So I thought, what can I do? I can take them, I can put them in a hotel, I can put them in a 5-star hotel, give them the best food, give them everything for one night, and then they're back on the street again. How does that help them? Then I thought, what if I did it for their whole life? Then the next life, they're going to be in that same position again. How is that helping them? So I thought the only thing I can do is give them prasadam, because prasadam helps them materially and spiritually. So the next day we got prasadam from the temple and we distributed it to these people out on the street. Because you do feel compassion, but at the same time, we shouldn't just have material compassion. We should try to help them, because it's like blowing on a boil. Prabhupada gave the example. You have a boil. If you know what a boil is, you have to cut it and open it up and get all this pus out. You can't, and if you blow on it, it feels good, but it doesn't help anything. So helping people materially doesn't really help anyone. I mean, I remember a devotee giving class in New York, and he had something set up where he was talking about this same point of how to help people, and then somebody in the class says, help, I'm drowning, like somebody back there says it. And then another person says, I can, and then the wife says, my husband's drowning, somebody help him. And then another guy gets up and he says, I'm a social worker, I will help him, I can help people, that's what I do. And he swims out to the guy and he gets the guy's jacket and brings it back to his wife. And he says, this is not you didn't save my husband, you saved his jacket, you saved his coat. And then he went on, then that was the end of that. And then he went on with the class explaining that when you're just helping the body, you're not helping the person. You have to help the soul, because otherwise it doesn't do anything. And they're going to get their karma sometime later on. It's just stalling it. But if you help them, even you could help them materially, but you have to help them spiritually. If you don't help them spiritually, it's a waste of time. So I think that's what we really have to see, how I can help people spiritually. And Prabhupada saw that. He saw people suffering. And he didn't think, well, I can feed them, I can clothe them, I can bandage them. He thought of them spiritually. They're suffering because of lack of Kṛṣṇa consciousness. And if we give them Kṛṣṇa consciousness, then they can be happy. Whatever their material problems will be minimized, and then they can go back home, back to Godhead, and no more material body. And that's the only way we can be happy. Hare Krishna.
So just 16 rounds and on and forth. It seems, even though we talk about it, but if you analyze the gambling, the illicit sex, the meat eating, and intoxication, to really eliminate all of that, and 16 good rounds, right?
I'm not up to that yet. But it would be nice if I could chant 16 good rounds.
All you got to do is follow 16 rounds before the principles. That's all you got to do. It seems like a mountain climb,
Right. Well, you got to follow that. Plus, you got to do what you can. Like, there was a devotee who told me this. He was standing behind Prabhupada on a morning walk, and someone asked about going back to Godhead. What do you have to do and all? And he was thinking, I thought if you chant 16 rounds, follow the regular principles, attend Mangalarti, that at the end of this life you'll go back to Godhead. And he said, Srila Prabhupada turned to him and said, yes, that's right.
Mangalarti tomorrow.
I confirmed by the bell. So I'm going to see everybody. Okay. So any other comments or questions? So we offer obeisances. Nobody else? Oh, there's a question back there. Or comment, I don't know.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I would like to know the point that we've done about Vishwanath-Chakravarti-Thakur and that you started to speak about Vishwanath-Chakravarti-Thakur, describe something in the book, and you ask us the question, and after I didn't remember.
I don't know what she said.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentioned something.
What said Vishwanath Chakravarti-Thakur regarding the mission?
Vishwanath Chakravarti-Thakur mentioned something. What did he mention that Prabhupada didn't write?
No, not that Prabhupada didn't write. These are not Prabhupada's verses. These are translated and purports by his devotees. And I thought they would follow the same thing, but I'm not even sure Prabhupada followed that. Wherever Vishwanath Chakravarti-Thakur made a comment, Prabhupada would write something. That's my understanding, and I'm not even positive it's true. But here, Vishwanath Chakravarti-Thakur made comments on these verses, but there were no purports. But this is not Prabhupada, this is the disciples. That's all I was saying. Sorry if it was confusing. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Piyari Mohan Prabhu ki.